Hello and welcome to this first tutorial of SimpleEarth. In this tutorial, I'm going to answer the question, what is SimpleEarth, and very briefly show you some of its capabilities. So, without further ado, in the shortest of terms, SimpleEarth is a virtual globe. Now, what is a virtual globe? I think the best way to describe it is by example. And the first example I have is Google Earth. I think I can safely assume that most of you are familiar with Google Maps. However, most people are not familiar with Google Earth. You can think of Google Earth as a Google Maps that is 3D with a lot of extra features. And here we can see a screenshot. The main disadvantage I see with Google Earth is that it's not open source and it doesn't offer a true plugin system. What I mean by this is that it doesn't provide an API you can compile against and create a DLL that gets executed at runtime. So if you think about it, if the tool is open source, it kind of alleviates the need for a plugin system since you have control of the entire source code. You can do whatever you want really, given that the source code is easy to understand and manageable. One tool that is open source is NASA's Whirlwind. It's got tons of features and it is very well supported by the community. Another tool that is worth mentioning is KDE Marble. Again, an open source tool. Now, these are just a few applications. Truth be told, there are tons of virtual globes out there. Now you might ask, if you can mention at least a couple of open source ones, why have yet another one? The answer is I like to believe SimpleEarth is like the TinyXML of virtual globes. Just as there are tons of virtual globes, there are also tons of XML parsers out there. Yet TinyXML has gained a lot of popularity. I think the reason it's so popular is its simplicity. By including a few header and source files, you can get the job done in minutes. Just as TinyXML, SimpleEarth is very, well, simple. We are talking about 40 classes as opposed to hundreds of classes compared to Whirlwind and Marble. And it's not like these classes are huge in number of lines of code. It is code that you can very easily leverage and have control over. And we'll go through some examples in subsequent tutorials. It is also focused on performance as it is built on C++ using Qt or Qt, which is a cross-platform framework. SimpleEarth runs on Windows, Linux, Unix, OS X, and could potentially be ported to iOS and Android. It is also at the moment focused on backwards compatibility. So for example, you have a very old machine with no support for shaders. Now let me show you some of the capabilities of SimpleEarth. SimpleEarth can download satellite imagery, as we can see here. We can see the frames per second fairly fast. We can do some, let me zoom in a little bit more. We can do some measurements. These are tools that you can pick. So I'm going to pick the measuring tool. Okay. So right mouse click. We can do some measurements in here. Can give you the length in kilometers or miles. Okay. We can place some paths. So for example, let me pick a color here, and we can place some path here, let's say. Okay. We could also place volumes, and we have selection here from sphere or cube or pyramid. Okay, let me select different color. You can scale, rotate, provide a specific latitude and longitude. Okay. You can also save these in here, save paths or volumes, and it'll ask you just for a file name to save to. You can also, for example, save this view in here in places. So for example, I can add here, I can name it, let's say I'm going to name this El Paso. Okay. So if you go to a different place later on, okay, you can come back to the same place. Okay, and all of this will not be as fun if you couldn't see things in a different perspective. Okay, so let me just go down here, select perspective, automatically tilts. Right now I don't have elevation data loaded, so that's why you cannot see the mountains, but you can see everything else is like from like a first person perspective. Okay. So I hope I have answered what SimpleEarth is and why you might want to use it as opposed to other tools. In the next tutorial, we will actually start looking at how to install it. Thank you for watching. See you on the next video.